Welcome back, dear friend, to Science in Sleeping. It's always so good to have you here, joining me in this quiet little corner of the night, where learning and resting gently weave together. Like threads of silk in a soft blanket tonight, we'll be wandering into a story that is both vast and surprisingly comforting. A story of fire and stone, of oceans and skies. A story about how volcanoes, those great mountains that breathe smoke and flame accidentally, helped shape the world we live in, and even made it possible for you and me to exist. Now, that might sound dramatic, almost too large to fit into the soft hours before sleep. But don't worry, you don't have to hold on to any details. You don't need to remember dates or terms or anything at all. If you drift away into dreams halfway through a sentence, that's not just okay, it's perfect. Because the rhythm of these words, the calm pacing, the gentle imagery, is meant to carry you into rest. This is your time. Time to set aside the busy chatter of the day. The emails, the lists, the news, the voices of expectation. All of that can wait until tomorrow, right now. The only thing you need to do is listen. Or half listen, or not listen at all. Just let the sound wash over you. Like soft waves lapping a quiet shore. I wonder where you are right now. Maybe you're curled up in your bed at the end of a long day, the lights dimmed low, the sheets cool against your skin. Or maybe you're on a sofa, headphones in, finding a small oasis of stillness. Perhaps you're far across the world from me, in a different time zone altogether. For some of you, it's late at night. For others, it's already the early morning hours. That's one of the most beautiful things about this little community we're creating, you and I, and all of us together sharing these calm moments across time and distance. And I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. There's something grounding in imagining all these listeners scattered across the globe, each of us quietly connected through the same stream of words. So, welcome once again, and welcome especially. If this is your very first night here, if you're new, let me tell you a little secret. This isn't really about learning in the traditional sense. Sure, I'll tell you about volcanoes and science and history, but it's not about memorizing facts or staying alert. This is about allowing curiosity to soften into calm, about using the wonder of the world to soothe the racing mind, to give your thoughts something gentle and expansive to rest upon, because sometimes the hardest part of falling asleep isn't the body, it's the mind. The body might be tired, but the thoughts keep looping, circling, replaying conversations, rehearsing tomorrow's worries. So tonight, let those thoughts drift away. They can float off like smoke rising from a gentle flame, dissolving into the night air, and instead, imagine yourself settling down at the foot of a volcano, not the dangerous, erupting kind, but a mountain at peace, solid, ancient, breathing slowly beneath the stars. Around you, the night is still, the air is cool, carrying the scent of stone and earth somewhere far above. The faint glow of cooled lava shines like embers in a hearth. You are safe here, watching the slow pulse of a planet that has been alive for billions of years. That is the pace of tonight's story, not loud, but steady, patient, timeless. So as we begin, give yourself permission to relax completely. You don't need to sit up straight. You don't need to focus. Just let your shoulders drop, unclench your jaw, rest your hands where they feel comfortable. Take a slow breath in and let it fall out again, easy and unforced. The story will carry itself. You don't need to guide it. You don't need to hold on. You can let yourself drift, knowing that the world has always been in motion, shaped by forces much larger than us. And tonight, those same forces, the volcanoes that built continents and oceans, will shape not just the earth, but the landscape of your dreams. So settle in, get comfortable. Let's begin our journey into the quiet fire that built our world. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like if the earth itself were breathing beneath you, rising and falling slowly like the chest of some ancient giant asleep under the stars? Have you ever thought about the strange truth that our planet is not just a ball of rock, but a living, restless body, constantly reshaping itself? Picture yourself standing on a quiet mountainside at night. The air is cool and clear, the stars scattered in a velvet sky. Beneath your feet, the ground feels steady. But if you wait long enough and listen deeply enough, you might almost sense the pulse of heat far below, a deep warmth, hidden but always present. You are standing on the skin of a breathing world, deep inside the earth. Heat left over from the birth of the planet is still trapped, combined with the constant slow decay of elements like uranium and thorium. This heat rises, and with it, pressure builds until cracks appear. Weak spots in the crust where molten rock can escape. And when it does, we see what we call a volcano. But here's the soothing thought. Volcanoes are not just destructive. They are also creative. In fact, the continents you and I live on, the mountains we climb, the very air we breathe, all owe their existence to the fire beneath. Think of the ocean floor for a moment. Did you know that most of it was created by volcanoes, not in sudden explosions, but in quiet, steady flows of lava from ridges that stretch across the seafloor like seams in a great quilt? The mid-Atlantic ridge, for example, is like a slow-moving zipper, opening the ocean wider every year, adding new land where none existed before. It is as if the planet itself is endlessly weaving new fabric for its surface. And above the waves, entire islands rise from the sea as if conjured from nowhere. Hawaii, Iceland, the Galapagos, all born from volcanic fire. Imagine standing on the fresh black rock of a new island, the surface still warm to the touch. Around you, the sea crashes, birds circle overhead, and there is the smell of sulfur, sharp but fleeting. This is the smell of the earth making new ground beneath your feet. Volcanoes also gave us air. The atmosphere we breathe did not come from nowhere. Early Earth was a hostile place. But as volcanoes released gases like carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and water vapor, they built the sky we live under. Clouds formed, rain fell, oceans gathered, and life found a home. Without volcanoes, there would be no oceans to swim in, no rain to wash the land, no gentle breeze to cool your skin on a summer evening. Did you know that even the soil beneath your garden plants is volcanic in origin? Lava, once cooled and broken down, becomes rich earth, bursting with minerals. That's why volcanic regions are among the most fertile on the planet. From the vineyards of Italy to the rice fields of Java, people have thrived in the shadow of volcanoes, relying on their gifts even while respecting their power. And yet there's something almost poetic about this balance. Volcanoes destroy, yes, but they also create. They end lives, but they also begin them. That paradox is not just science, but a quiet comfort, a reminder that endings and beginnings are always woven together. If you close your eyes, you might picture the earth as a great hearth, its core a glowing fire, its crust the thin surface of cooled stone. The volcanoes are like chimneys, releasing the pressure, reshaping the land, keeping the fire alive. In a way, every mountain, every valley, every coastline is a trace of that slow breathing. And we, tiny as we are, get to live upon it, like children asleep on the chest of a giant, lulled by the steady rhythm of its heart. So tonight, as you listen, you might allow yourself to rest in that thought. You are safe, lying here, and beneath you, the planet is alive, always moving, always creating. It has been so for billions of years, and will be so long after we are gone. And in that immense time scale, your worries of the day, your racing thoughts seem lighter, softer, small enough to let go. And as we leave this mountain for now, we'll carry with us the comfort of its slow, steady breath. Next, we'll drift further back into the very beginnings of our planet's story, to the time when fire and rock first battled water and air to shape the earth we know. Have you ever wondered what the very first dawn on Earth must have looked like? Not the dawn you know, with soft skies painted pink and blue. Not the gentle warmth of a rising sun touching fields of grass, but the very first light falling on a newborn planet, when the earth was still young, still raw, still finding its shape. Have you ever wondered what it felt like to stand, if anyone could stand, on a world made of fire and storms? Imagine this with me. Let's slow down, breathe, and step back 4.5 billion years. Picture yourself drifting in the silence of space, surrounded by endless stars. Ahead of you, a planet turns, not the calm blue and green marble we know today, but a restless, glowing world. Its surface is molten, oceans of lava rolling like tides of fire, geysers of vapor hiss into the sky, meteors crash down like fiery rain. This is Earth in its infancy, and you are watching it take its first breaths. The air around this young world is unrecognizable, thick with gases, heavy with heat. There is no oxygen to breathe, no oceans yet to reflect the starlight, only violent storms of rock and water vapor swirling in the air. Thunder growls through a sky without color, lit by lightning that flashes again and again, striking a land that cannot cool. And yet, in this chaos, the seeds of life are already being sown beneath the crust, hidden in the furious heart of the planet. Heat churns, trapped from the Earth's birth. Imagine the energy of countless collisions, planetesimals, fragments of worlds, slamming together, merging into one, still echoing in the deep layers of molten stone. That energy must go somewhere, and it finds its path upward, pushing, breaking, opening cracks. Already, even in these first ages, volcanoes begin their work. But here's where the suspense begins. The Earth, hot and restless, is surrounded by water, but not in the way you think. The oceans had not yet formed. Water existed only as vapor, steam rising endlessly from the cracks and boiling seas of lava. Picture the air so thick with steam that sunlight barely reaches the ground. You would feel the world as a sauna, oppressive and dense, a globe wrapped in its own clouds. And then, something extraordinary happens. The earth begins to cool. Slowly, patiently, over millions of years, the steam condenses, raindrops form, and it begins to rain. Not for hours, not for days, but for thousands upon thousands of years. A rain so long, so relentless, that it filled every basin, carved valleys, spread into vast oceans. The sound of it must have been deafening, a roar unbroken by silence. Imagine standing on a cliff of black volcanic rock as the rain pours down without end. Sheets of water striking stone that still hisses with heat. Rivers racing toward a sea that is being born before your eyes. And all of it, all this water, was released by volcanoes, the steam, the vapor. The gases all exhaled by the breath of a planet still forming. That breath made the sky, made the clouds, made the oceans that cradle the continents. Without volcanoes, there would have been no seas to shelter life, no tide to shape the shorelines, no cradle for the first cells. Now pause for a moment, breathe slowly, let yourself picture that world of endless rain. And remember the last time you lay awake listening to rain on your own window. The sound of droplets steady against the glass. A rhythm that can lull you into sleep. The first rains of earth were not so gentle, but they carried the same promise of cleansing, of change, of new beginnings. As the oceans formed, the earth's surface hardened, continents began to rise from the waters. But the world was far from quiet. The interior heat still pushed upward, forming new volcanoes at the edges of the seas. Picture islands lifting from the waves like the backs of sleeping giants, steam swirling around them, lava glowing in cracks along their flanks. These islands grew, collided, merged, and over ages became the continents we stand upon today. And here is a thought to rest upon. Every grain of sand on every beach, every pebble on every path began in fire. All rock is the cooled memory of lava, broken down, scattered, softened by water and time. When you pick up a stone and hold it in your hand, you are holding a fragment of Earth's earliest story, a piece of the very process that built the ground beneath us. Did you know, for example, that the minerals in your bones, calcium, phosphorus, iron, were released to the surface by volcanoes? The air you are breathing now is thick with nitrogen and carbon dioxide, both exhaled long ago from the Earth's core. Even the water in your body, every drop, is recycled from those first rains, which came down from clouds that volcanoes themselves created. In a way, you are a living extension of volcanic fire, cooled and shaped into life. And yet, for all this fire and fury, the story feels strangely soothing, doesn't it? It is a reminder that even chaos has a rhythm, even destruction has a purpose. The world was not born in silence, and Comet was born in thunder, in flame, in flood, yet out of that came the conditions for life, for rest, for beauty. If you close your eyes now, you might imagine yourself sitting at the edge of one of those first seas. The rain has slowed, the air is still heavy, but beginning to clear. The horizon glows faintly with the promise of stars beyond the clouds. The waves lap gently at the edge of black volcanic rock, and though the world is still dangerous, still raw, there is also a profound quiet, a sense of beginnings that is the mystery and the comfort of volcanoes. They are violent, yes, but also generous. They burn, but they also breathe. They gave us oceans and air and fertile land. They built the stage on which the story of life could unfold. And as you drift deeper into this thought, notice how small your own worries feel compared to the vast patience of a planet that spent millions of years just to form its seas. Notice how gentle your own breath feels compared to the roaring exhalations of a world in its infancy, and allow that contrast to soften your mind, to make space for rest. And so, with the oceans now filling, the continents beginning to rise, and the first sparks of possibility shimmering in the water, we prepare to drift into the next chapter of our journey. For the next step is perhaps the most astonishing of all, the step where volcanoes not only shaped the land and sky, but may have played a hand in the very birth of life itself. Have you ever wondered where life first began? Not just your life, or mine, or the lives of the creatures around us, but life itself, the very first flicker of something living in a world that had been nothing but stone, fire, and ocean. Have you ever wondered how something as fragile as a single cell could appear out of the chaos of volcanoes and storms? Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself at the edge of one of Earth's first oceans. The sky above you is heavy with clouds, the air still warm with the breath of the planet. You hear waves slapping against black volcanic stone, steam hissing where the water meets newly cooled lava. The smell is sharp sulfur, minerals, wet earth. This is not a gentle beach, but a place alive with energy, restless and raw. Beneath the surface of that ocean, near the cracks where the Earth's crust is thin, something remarkable is happening. Picture vast chimneys of black rock rising from the seafloor, belching clouds of superheated water. These are hydrothermal vents, born from the heat of volcanoes beneath the sea. Their waters are rich with minerals, sulfur, carbon flowing into the dark ocean like nutrients pouring into a cauldron. And here, scientists believe, life may have begun. It sounds almost like a fable, doesn't it? A dark ocean, no sunlight, only the glow of volcanic heat and the bubbling of minerals. And yet, in these conditions, simple molecules might have gathered, joined, combined, slowly, over countless years. The chemistry of life began to stir, from sparks of energy and clouds of mineral-rich steam. Something living emerged, fragile, tiny, almost unthinkably small, but alive. Let's pause and really feel the suspense of that moment. For billions of years, the Earth had been nothing but rock and fire, rain and ocean. Then, in a quiet corner of the sea, near the warm breath of a volcano, something stirred that had never stirred before. A molecule capable of copying itself, clinging to existence. The very first ancestor of everything: trees, whales, insects, humans, you, me, all of us. It's astonishing to realize that we are connected not only to the oceans and the stars, but to volcanoes themselves. Without their heat, their gases, their vents, life might never have sparked. Without their constant breathing, the stage might never have been set. Entire ecosystems thrive around these volcanic vents, miles below the ocean surface where no sunlight ever reaches. Giant tube worms, crabs, shrimp, bacterial, living in absolute darkness, nourished only by the heat and chemicals of the vents. It is a world as alien as another planet, and yet it is right here on Earth. These creatures are a living reminder of where life may have started, still thriving in the warmth of volcanic fire. And here's a thought to carry with you. You are, in a sense, a descendant of fire. Your cells carry traces of that ancient chemistry. The dance of molecules around volcanic heat, the iron in your blood, the salts in your veins, the water in your cells all echo back to those first oceans, those first vents, those first volcanoes. When your heart beats, it beats because, somewhere, billions of years ago, volcanic heat gave molecules the energy to try something new, to live. Now imagine this scene again, but slower, gentler. Picture yourself descending into that early ocean. The water is dark, pressing against you. But ahead there is a glow, a faint shimmer in the blackness. You move closer and see the towers of the hydrothermal vents, rising like cathedrals, mineral spires glowing faintly with heat. Around them, clouds of shimmering water billow. The currents are alive with tiny sparks, chemicals, particles, molecules colliding and combining. The water feels warm here, warmer than the rest of the sea, comforting, protective. You drift closer still, and you realize that this glow, this warmth, is like a cradle, cradling the very first beginnings of life. You can almost feel the hush of the moment, the silence before a song, the breath before the first word. And then, in that silence, life begins. It is so small, invisible to the eye, no larger than a whisper in the fabric of existence. And yet, once it appears, it cannot be stopped. It divides, multiplies, changes, adapts in time. These tiny lives will fill the seas, will crawl onto land, will take to the skies, will become forests, creatures, civilizations, and all of it began in the warmth of a volcanic breath beneath the ocean. There is something deeply comforting in this, to know that even in darkness, life can find a way. Even in chaos, creation stirs. Even in the most unlikely of place, set the bottom of a boiling sea. Next, two vents of smoke and flame life can arise. So tonight, as you rest, you might imagine yourself not only as a human lying in bed, but as part of that great chain of being, stretching back billions of years. You are the continuation of a story written by fire and water, by stone and steam. And the same energy that once sparked in those volcanic vents is still with you, flowing in your cells, beating in your heart. As your eyes grow heavier, allow yourself to feel the awe of that connection. You are not separate from the earth, you are its child, born of its breath, its oceans, its fire. You are, in a very real sense, a small piece of volcano cooled into life. And as we leave this chapter, let the image of those glowing vents linger, warm and steady. Imagine them still breathing at the bottom of the sea, a reminder that life does not need light, or calm, or certainty, only needs energy, connection, and time. And next, we will drift forward again to see how volcanoes, having sparked life in the oceans, continued their work on the surface, shaping the land and carving the landscapes that would one day cradle forests, rivers, and the first steps of creatures who walked upon the earth. Have you ever wondered why mountains rise where they do? Why some landscapes are flat and quiet, while others are jagged, dramatic, almost theatrical? Have you ever stood before a towering peak and felt a shiver of awe, and thought to yourself, how did this get here? What force of the earth carved something so immense? Tonight, as we continue our gentle journey, we will see how volcanoes were not only the sparks of oceans and life, but also the great sculptors of the world's surface, patient artists who shaped the continents we walk upon, the valleys we live in, the very view from your own window. So let's drift once again into a scene. Picture yourself walking across a vast plain of cooled lava. It stretches for miles, black and rippling, like the surface of a frozen sea. The air is cool now, long after the eruption, and small green shoots are beginning to push through cracks in the rock. Ahead of you, on the horizon, rises a mountain, its peak lost in a veil of clouds. It is not just a pile of stone, it is the work of thousands of eruptions layered over millions of years. Every ridge, every slope, every cliff face built from fire and time. It is hard to imagine, but much of the land we know was built in exactly this way. Layer upon layer, eruption upon eruption. Volcanoes pouring out stone, ash, and minerals that slowly piled higher, higher, until mountains touched the sky. The Himalayas, the Andes, the Cascades, even islands like Japan, all born from this restless creativity. And yet the process was never simple. The Earth's crust is not solid like glass, but fractured, broken into plates that drift slowly over the molten mantle below. When those plates collide, they crumple, fold, and force rock skyward. But often it is volcanoes that rise at the edges, marking the scars of the planet's collisions. Imagine the Earth as a living body, and volcanoes as the scars of its healing, permanent reminders of where energy once tore the surface open. There is suspense in this idea. Every landscape we see is the trace of ancient violence, softened by time. Look at a meadow, and beneath it was once an eruption. Look at a rolling hill, and once it may have been the flank of a volcano long since eroded. Even the calm fields of soil, so gentle underfoot, are ground down remnants of lava flows. And did you know that the continents themselves, those vast stretches of land we live upon, are partly volcanic in origin? Basalt from ancient eruptions built the foundation of the land. Later eruptions added new layers. Mountains rose at the edges, valleys sank, and so, slowly, the outlines of the continents took shape. Imagine drifting above the Earth as it was hundreds of millions of years ago. You would see continents pulling apart, colliding, joining, and each time volcanoes rising at the seams, whole chains of fiery mountains marking the boundaries, glowing faintly in the darkness of prehistory. The Earth has worn many shapes, but always volcanoes were there, shaping, sculpting, reimagining the surface. And the artistry of volcanoes is not only in mountains, but in beauty. Think of Iceland, with its waterfalls tumbling over black basalt cliffs, or Hawaii, where fresh lava meets the ocean and cools into glass. Think of Italy's vineyards growing in soil rich from Vesuvius, or the vast plains of Africa, where volcanic rift valleys stretch toward the horizon. Each of these places holds a quiet testimony. Without volcanoes, they would not exist. But perhaps most suspenseful of all is the hidden volcanoes, the ones buried deep, long extinct, mountains that no longer smoke or flame, but still shape the land. Some of the most fertile valleys in the world are the craters of ancient volcanoes. filled now with rivers, forests, and cities. People live and thrive in the hollows of once fairy mountains, almost as if they have forgotten the origins of the ground beneath them. And here is a thought to rest upon. Volcanoes are storytellers written into the land. Every hill, every cliff, every shoreline carries the memory of fire. When you walk a trail or look out over a landscape, you are reading a story written in stone. A story that began long before humans walked the earth. Now imagine yourself sitting at the edge of a volcanic crater. Long cooled, the floor of the crater is now a meadow, full of soft grasses and flowers swaying in the breeze. Birds sing in the trees, a lake sparkles in the sun, and yet, as you sit there, you can feel the deep silence. The echo of the fire that once roared here. The peace of the place is only possible because of the chaos that came before. There is something comforting in this rhythm, isn't it, to know that landscapes are not fixed, but always changing, always moving from destruction to creation, from fire to soil, from eruption to meadow. It is a reminder that change itself is natural, that what seems violent today can, in time, become the foundation of beauty. So as you breathe now, slowly and gently, think of the ground beneath you. It may feel still, unmoving, but it has been shaped by billions of years of eruptions and quiet cooling. It is the stage upon which all life dances. And even though the earth is restless, always reshaping itself, it has carried you safely to this moment, and it will continue to hold you as you rest. And in the quiet, as your thoughts grow slower, allow yourself to imagine the slow work of volcanoes as a kind of lullaby, deep, patient, unhurried, shaping the world with the rhythm of fire and stone. And as we leave this module, we prepare to look at how volcanoes, having sculpted the land, also touched the sky. For the next chapter is not about mountains or valleys, but about how volcanoes changed the very atmosphere, influencing not only the air we breathe, but the climate of the world itself. Have you ever stopped, just for a moment, to wonder where the air you are breathing right now came from? You take a breath in, and it feels so ordinary, so effortless. The oxygen, the nitrogen, the faint traces of carbon dioxide bits, all just there, invisible and reliable. But how did it get here? How did a rocky, fiery planet, once covered in molten stone and choking clouds, end up with a sky that could cradle life? Imagine, if you will, drifting above the Earth as it was in its earliest ages. The planet is still hot, its surface restless. But what strikes you most is the sky. It is not blue, not clear, not calm. Instead, it is thick and dark, veiled in smoke and gases. Lightning tears across the heavens. Thunder rolls like an endless drum, and from below, volcanoes roar, belching plumes of steam and ash that climb higher and higher into the sky. This, believe it or not, is where our atmosphere came from. Volcanoes are not just sculptors of land, they are breath givers. Every eruption exhaled gases trapped deep within the earth. Steam that became water, carbon dioxide that built the first greenhouse effect, nitrogen that would later make up most of the air. Without these volcanic breaths, our planet would have remained silent, airless, and lifeless. Picture yourself standing near one of those ancient eruptions. The ground trembles beneath your feet, and above you, a towering column of smoke and steam rises into the sky. It stretches so high that it pierces the clouds, spreading out like a black canopy. You can hear the roar, feel the heat, taste the sulfur on your tongue. But what feels chaotic, violent, terrifying, is also necessary. Each plume is a gift, carrying gases upward, mixing them into the air, creating the conditions for life. And here is a fascinating thought. The air you are breathing tonight, this very breath, is the product of billions of years of eruptions. Every inhale is full of atoms, once carried upward in volcanic smoke. The nitrogen in your lungs was breathed out by mountains. The carbon that flows through plants, that feeds forests, once rose as a hot gas from a fissure in the ground. Even the oxygen, though produced later by life, only lingered in the sky because volcanoes laid the foundation for it. But volcanoes did more than just build the air. They shaped the climate, too. Imagine a time when Earth should have been frozen solid. Billions of years ago, the sun was younger then, weaker, its light dimmer, by all accounts. The planet should have been a ball of ice, but it wasn't. Why? Because volcanoes were breathing carbon dioxide into the sky, building a greenhouse blanket that trapped warmth. Volcanoes, in their endless exhalations, kept the Earth alive, yet the story is never simple. Volcanoes could also cool the world when eruptions were vast enough. They sent not only gases, but fine ash and sulfur high into the stratosphere, where it spread like a veil across the planet, reflecting sunlight, dimming the skies. Imagine entire years of muted sunsets, orange and strange. Days when the sun glowed weak and pale behind a curtain of ash. The earth cooled, crops withered. Winters deepened for humans in later ages. Such events would feel apocalyptic, but in deep time, they are part of the rhythm. Did you know that one of the largest volcanic eruptions in recorded history, Mount Tambora in 1815, caused what became known as the year without a summer across the globe? Harvests failed, frost came in June, skies turned hazy, and stories of hunger and hardship spread. And yet, on the other side of this suffering, the climate returned, adjusted, found balance once again. Volcanoes are not just destroyers, they are regulators, sometimes warming, sometimes cooling, always adjusting the delicate balance of Earth's breath. Now imagine yourself lying on a quiet hillside, looking up at the night sky. The air is cool, crisp, clear. It feels eternal, as though it has always been here. But the truth is more suspenseful. This air is a fragile gift, built slowly, breath by breath, by volcanoes that once roared in a world without humans, without animals, without even plants. You are inhaling the legacy of fire. And in this thought, there is a strange comfort, to know that the air that soothes you to sleep tonight was forged not in peace, but in storms, not in silence, but in eruptions. It is a reminder that calm is often born from chaos, that beauty can rise from fire. Let's soften the image now. Picture a volcano erupting under the ancient skies. But imagine it in slow motion. The plume rises gently, curling upward like smoke from a candle. The ash drifts outward like feathers. The sky, though dark, glows faintly with scattered light. And slowly, the atmosphere is built, layer by layer, like a blanket being woven by unseen hands, until at last it can cradle oceans, forests, creatures, and you, here, now, breathing it in. So tonight, as your eyes grow heavier, you might let this image comfort you. You are surrounded by the quiet breath of volcanoes long gone. You are safe inside the sky they made. You are wrapped in the air they built. And your own breath, slow and steady, is in harmony with theirs. And as we drift from this thought, let us prepare for the next chapter. For if volcanoes gave us air and water, if they built the land and the sky, then what happened when they reached into the deeper mysteries of time, when their fire met the cycles of ice, extinction, and rebirth? In the next module, we'll wander into those moments when volcanoes shook not only the ground, but the course of life itself. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to live through the end of the world? Not the end in a dramatic, cinematic sense, but the quiet, slow unraveling of life on Earth, when seasons stop behaving, when skies grow dim, when oceans sour, and when whole forests fall silent. It sounds like the stuff of nightmares. But long before humans arrived, such endings happened more than once. And almost every time, volcanoes were at the heart of it. Now, let's pause and imagine together. Picture a lush, ancient world, alive with strange creatures. Thick jungles and vast oceans. You can hear insects buzzing in the warm air. Creatures calling in the distance. The sky is bright, the sun is strong, life feels abundant and secure. And then, from deep beneath the crust, something stirs. A fracture in the earth opens, not in one place, but across hundreds of miles. Lava begins to pour, not for a day, not for a week, but for thousands upon thousands of years. Rivers of molten rock spread across the land, releasing an ocean of gases into the sky. This is not the kind of eruption you see on the news. Not a single cone exploding, but something far more immense. These were called large, igneous provinces, cataclysmic volcanic events that poured fire across continents. They could last centuries, even millennia, building up layer upon layer of basalt. Imagine a lava field so vast it could swallow modern countries whole. Imagine a fire that doesn't end. The gases from these ancient eruptions, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, methane, flooded the atmosphere. The climate tilted, oceans warmed, then turned acidic. Creatures struggled to survive. Some adapted, others vanished. And here is the chilling truth. Some of the greatest mass extinctions in Earth's history were linked to volcanoes. One of the most haunting examples is the Permian-Triassic extinction, often called the Great Dying, about 252 million years ago. Nearly 90% of all marine life disappeared, and about 70% of land species followed. Forests collapsed, coral reefs crumbled, insects, even the most resilient, perished in staggering numbers. And what lay behind it? Scientists point to the Siberian Traps, an enormous volcanic province that erupted for nearly 1 million years. The scale is almost impossible to fathom. Lava fields as large as modern-day Europe, belching greenhouse gases, warming the climate, suffocating oceans. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine standing near that ancient fire. The land glows red for as far as you can see. The air is thick, heavy, hard to breathe. The sun above is dimmed by ash and smoke. Days stretch into a twilight haze. The forests around you wilt. Animals stumble and weaken. You can feel the earth itself gasping. And yet, out of this devastation, something new slowly emerged. For as terrifying as mass extinctions are, they also clear space. They end some chapters of life, but open the possibility for others. Without the great dying, reptiles might never have risen to dominate the land, and eventually, the age of the dinosaurs may never have begun. It is a strange paradox, isn't it? Volcanoes bring endings, but also beginnings. They close one story only to make room for another. In their fire, life both suffers and evolves. Fast forward to another cataclysm, the end of the dinosaurs. We often think of an asteroid strike as the cause, and indeed, the Chicxulub impact left its scar. But alongside that, something else was happening. Across what is now India, the Deccan traps were erupting, pouring lava over 500,000 square kilometers, releasing gases that shifted the climate. Was it the asteroid? Was it the volcanoes? Or was it both? Acting together like a 1-2 punch, wiping out the giants of the Mesozoic. Imagine the twilight worlds, the thunder of impacts, the red rivers of lava, skies filled with ash and smoke. For the creatures alive then, it must have felt like the very end. And in a sense, it was, but out of their absence. Mammals, small, quiet, overlooked, had the chance to rise. From that silence, eventually, we appeared. Here's something that might comfort you tonight. Even in the darkest endings, life has a way of finding renewal. Volcanoes that seemed to destroy everything also created the conditions for something new. They made space for different forms of life, for new ecosystems, for new possibilities. Now, as you breathe slowly, think of this cycle. Think of how, even in your own life, endings can feel catastrophic, overwhelming, impossible, and yet sometimes, endings are the only way something new can begin. The earth knows this rhythm well. It has danced through destruction and renewal many times, and always, eventually, found balance again. Let us linger for a moment with an image. Picture yourself walking across an ancient volcanic plain. The rock beneath you is dark, jagged, lifeless, stretching as far as the eye can see. The silence is heavy. You almost believe nothing could ever grow here again. But as you kneel, you notice a small green sprout pushing through a crack. Fragile, stubborn, alive. That is how life always returns. That is how the earth heals. And so, as we leave this chapter, remember this: the fire that ended worlds also created the conditions for ours. The breath you take, the life around you, even your own presence here tonight owes something to those terrible, magnificent eruptions. Volcanoes, in their destructive fury, shaped the very path. Let your breath slow, let your body soften, knowing that endings are never the final word. They are transitions, bridges to something else. As we move forward, we will see how volcanoes not only destroyed but also nurtured, how their ashes seeded soil, how their minerals fed oceans, and how in their quiet aftermath they became gardens. And so we drift onward, from fire and extinction toward rebirth, from endings into beginnings, from the roar of eruptions into the whisper of growth. Have you ever wondered how something so destructive, so violent, could also be the source of abundance? It almost feels like a contradiction, doesn't it? Volcanoes destroy, they bury, they blacken the land, yet, given time, they also create some of the most fertile places on Earth. Let's imagine for a moment that you are standing at the edge of a landscape just after a great eruption. The ground is covered in a blanket of gray ash. The trees are gone, the air smells of sulfur. The silence feels heavy, almost sacred. You might look at this desolate plain and think, nothing will ever live here again. It feels final, absolute, and yet, beneath this stillness, something extraordinary is beginning, because volcanic ash is not just dust. It is a treasure chest of minerals, iron, magnesium, potassium, phosphorus, silicatini fragments of Earth's deep interior scattered across the surface. They look lifeless, but they are food waiting for life. Rain begins to fall, slowly breaking the ash down. Rivers carry the particles into the soil. Seeds drift in on the wind. Birds drop them unknowingly, slowly. The blackened ground begins to green. Think of Hawaii, born from fire, yet blanketed now in lush jungles and vibrant flowers. Think of Java and Sumatra, where villages grow in the shadow of volcanoes, planting rice in soils so rich that crops rise tall year after year. Even the vineyards of Italy, the rolling hills around Vesuvius, thrive because the ground is steeped in ancient ash. What was once devastation becomes nourishment. Did you know that some of the most productive agricultural regions in the world exist because of volcanoes? In Indonesia, volcanic soils feed millions. In the African Rift Valley, crops spring from black earth laced with ash. In Japan, fertile plains lie in the embrace of volcanic arcs. These places have sustained civilizations for centuries, feeding bodies and building cultures. And people, despite the danger, often return to live near volcanoes, because the gift of the soil outweighs the risk of fire. There's something beautifully suspenseful in this, how humans are drawn back to the very forces that could destroy them. A kind of delicate dance between danger and reward, between fear and hope, between endings and beginnings. Now, let us soften the scene. Imagine yourself walking through a volcanic valley years after an eruption. At first, you see only blackened rock, sharp and unforgiving. But as you wander deeper, you notice small plants, moss clinging to stone, ferns unfurling their leaves, and then, astonishingly, trees beginning to rise. Birds sing from their branches, animals return, streams run clear. The landscape is alive again, not just alive, but flourishing. This is one of Earth's quiet miracles. Volcanic soil is so fertile that once life takes hold, it often bursts forth with breathtaking richness. The ash that once smothered becomes the foundation for forests, meadows, farms, and vineyards. The very minerals carried up from the planet's interior feed the cycles of growth. It is as though the earth, after burning, offers a gift of renewal. Consider the poetic symmetry here. Volcanoes take from life, and yet they give back. They remind us that destruction and creation are never truly separate. They are entwined, one flowing into the other. Fire becomes soil, and soil becomes food, and food becomes life. And perhaps you felt this in your own life, too. Times when something seemed to end completely, when all you saw was ash and silence. But later, much later, growth began again. New opportunities rose, new chapters unfolded. The ground that once felt barren revealed hidden richness. Let us dwell on an image together. You are sitting in a small vineyard at dusk. The air is cool, the soil beneath your feet is dark and soft. In your hand is a cluster of grapes, sweet and full. They grew here because, long ago, a volcano erupted, spilling ash across the land. What was once fire is now fruit. What was once destruction is now nourishment. This cycle has been repeating for millions of years, quietly, patiently, and isn't it mysterious? To think that some of the meals you eat, some of the grains, fruits, or vegetables, owe their existence to ancient eruptions. The food that sustains you is linked to fire that roared before humanity even began. In every bite, there is history. In every sip of wine, there is ash, transformed. Here is another layer of suspense. In every fertile volcanic soil lies the memory of fire. A memory that is never truly gone. For beneath the richness, the volcano still sleeps. It may awaken one day, reclaiming its gift. The people who live in its shadow know this. And yet they stay, they plant, they harvest, they build lives for them. The volcano is not just a threat. It is a partner, sometimes merciful, sometimes cruel, but always essential. And as you breathe in now, think of this delicate balance. The air in your lungs, the food in your body, the ground beneath your feet, in one way or another, by fire turned to soil. You are a part of this cycle, woven into it, sustained by it. Now let us slow the image even further. Picture the ash of an eruption drifting gently, not as something frightening, but as something soft. Like gray snow, it falls silently, covering the earth, and then, with time, that ash dissolves into the soil, where roots stretch down, drawing nourishment, where rain mixes it into rivers, where life drinks deeply of what was once destruction. The fire becomes invisible, hidden in the green of leaves, the sweetness of fruit, the strength of wood. And perhaps, as you listen, you feel a kind of quiet gratitude. Gratitude for the resilience of the earth. Gratitude for the way destruction is never final. Gratitude for the gardens that grow from ashes. So tonight, as your body relaxes, you might let this thought rest with you. Even the hardest moments, even the endings that feel absolute, can become the soil for something new. The earth has shown us this again and again, and it whispers the same truth to you. And now, gently, we prepare to move forward. For if volcanoes nourish soil and feed civilizations, they also inspire myths, stories, and dreams. They live not only in the land, but in our imagination. In the next module, we'll wander into the human heart, exploring the myths and legends that grew in the shadow of fire, where people saw gods, monsters, and mysteries in the mountains that breathed smoke. Have you ever wondered what it must have been like to see a volcano erupt before the age of science? Imagine yourself thousands of years ago, standing in a small village under the shadow of a great mountain. You live your life day by day tending crops, fishing rivers, telling stories by firelight. The mountain has always been there, silent, unshakable, part of the horizon you trust. But then, one night, the ground trembles. The sky fills with fire, smoke pours upward like a stairway into the heavens. Lava spills down the slopes, glowing red in the darkness. What would you think? How would you explain it for our ancestors? Volcanoes were never just mountains. They were living beings, powerful and unpredictable. To some, they were gods with tempers as vast as the sky. To others, They were gates to the underworld, places where spirits dwelled. The roar of an eruption was the voice of the divine. The trembling of the ground, a warning. The flow of lava, a punishment or a gift. Let us travel for a moment to Hawaii, where the goddess Pele rules over fire. She is said to live in the summit of Klauia, her spirit flowing in the molten rivers of lava. Her temper could be fierce, but she was also seen as a creator, building new land with each eruption. The islands themselves, lush and alive, were said to be her work. To walk near an eruption in Hawaii was to walk in Pele's presence, to see the earth itself as alive and divine. Now let us cross oceans to ancient Greece, where another story unfolds. The Greeks imagined that beneath the smoking mountain of Etna lived the giant Enceladus. Trapped by the gods after a great battle, his struggles and roars shook the ground, and his fiery breath burst forth as lava. Later, the Romans believed that the god Vulcan, the blacksmith of the gods, kept his forge beneath these mountains, hammering weapons in the heart of fire. Every eruption was his workshop, blazing to life. The word volcano itself comes from Vulcan's name. Travel farther, and you will find more stories. In Japan, Mount Fuji was sacred, a mountain of spirits and immortals. In New Zealand, the MRORI told of volcanic mountains as lovers and rivals, their fiery outbursts the result of passion and jealousy. In Iceland, volcanoes were seen as gateways, places where the earth touched other realms. Their eruptions reminders that unseen powers moved beneath the world. There is suspense in these myths, a recognition that volcanoes were not just scenery, but characters in the great story of existence. To ancient people, the mountain's silence was not emptiness, it was patience. And when the mountain spoke, when it erupted, it was a message, a warning, or a revelation. Picture yourself now, lying beneath a night sky filled with stars, listening to these old stories. The fire of the volcano glows on the horizon, distant but undeniable. It crackles, it roars, it lights up the dark. For the storyteller beside you, this is not geology. This is the work of gods. Giants or spirits, you can feel the awe, the reverence, the fear, and perhaps also the comfort. Because even in its violence, the volcano gives meaning. It is not random chaos. It is the will of something greater. And maybe, in a way, those myths were not so far from truth. For volcanoes do shape life. They do decide fates. They do create and destroy. They are not gods, but they have a power that feels divine. They are not spirits, but they carry within them the breath of the earth itself. Think of the suspense in standing before a mountain that might erupt. You cannot know when or how. You cannot see the fire within. You can only imagine. And that imagination has always turned to stories. Because stories make the unknowable bearable. They make fear into something that can be shared. Something that can be told around a fire. Something that explains the unexplainable. And perhaps you've noticed this in your own life, when something vast and uncontrollable happens, when life shakes the ground beneath you. The human mind reaches for story, for meaning, for myth. Volcanoes gave us some of our earliest myths because they were some of our earliest mysteries. Now let us soften the picture again. Imagine a village long ago. The mountain smolders in the distance. The people gather around a fire, elders speaking, children listening with wide eyes. They tell of gods in the fire, of giants struggling beneath the rock, of spirits shaping the land. The stories flow like the lava itself, binding the community, giving them a way to face the uncertainty of life. In the glow of both fire pits and volcanoes, humanity learned not only to fear, but to imagine. There's a beauty in this, isn't there? That the same mountains that terrified us also inspired our creativity, our myths, our poetry. Even now, writers, artists, and filmmakers use volcanoes as symbols of destruction, of passion, of transformation. A volcano is never just a mountain. It is always something more, a metaphor, a mirror. And so, tonight, as you listen, you are part of that same long tradition. You are lying here, listening to the story of fire, finding meaning in its roar. Even if you don't believe in Peel or Vulcan or in, you can feel what they felt, the awe of standing before something larger than yourself, the mystery of a world that is alive beneath your feet. Let your breath deepen now, as though you are breathing in the myths themselves. Feel the warmth of the fire, the hush of the night, the timelessness of the story. Volcanoes gave us more than land and air. They gave us imagination. They gave us a sense of the sacred. They reminded us, in flame and smoke, that we are not the masters of the earth, but its companions. And as your eyes grow heavy, carry this thought: the mountain sleeps, but it dreams in fire. The stories we tell about it are also dreams, mirrors of our own fears and hopes. Myths are not less true because they are stories. They are true in another way. They show us how humans learned to live with mystery, with awe, with the unknown. Now, let us drift onward. For beyond myths lies memory, not just in stories, but in the rocks themselves. In the next chapter, we'll explore how volcanoes have preserved history, how layers of ash have frozen moments in time, keeping human lives and entire cities locked in their embrace, waiting for us to rediscover them centuries later. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to walk through a city frozen in time, not by magic, not by choice, but by fire itself? Imagine streets suddenly silenced, homes sealed, voices stilled, all under a blanket of ash. It is almost unimaginable, and yet it has happened more than once in human history. When volcanoes erupt, they do not only shape landscapes, they capture moments, preserving them like delicate glass. Let's drift back to one of the most famous events, the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD. Imagine standing on the Bay of Naples that morning. The air is warm, the sun gentle, the streets are bustling with merchants, children playing, the scent of bread drifting from ovens. People are living their ordinary lives, entirely unaware that the mountain looming over them is about to roar to life. And then it begins, slowly, at first, a faint tremor, almost like a warning. Then the mountain breathes fire. A cloud of ash and pumice rises into the sky. The sun vanishes behind a gray veil. The ground shakes, roofs collapse. Smoke fills the streets. People run, dogs yelp. But the ash is fast, relentless, invisible yet crushing. It falls like snow. But each flake is heavy, hot, almost unbearable to imagine, is how sudden it all was. How a bustling city became a silent ghost, streets frozen, doors sealed. Everything preserved in the gray shroud, a city trapped in a single, terrifying day. And yet, from our modern vantage, there is something extraordinary about it. The ash, that very force of destruction, became a preserver, sealing buildings, frescoes, mosaics, even the forms of people in their final moments. Archaeologists later discovered them, and when they poured plaster into the cavities left by the decayed bodies, they revealed hauntingly detailed casts of humans, frozen in time. A baker with bread still in his hands, a child curled in terror, a family huddled together, all locked in silent story. Picture yourself walking among these ruins, not in haste, not with fear, but with quiet curiosity. The streets are empty, but the lives of the people are tangible. The shape of their chairs, the pattern of tiles, the walls painted in bright frescoes. You can almost hear their whispers, their laughter, their panic. Their lives are captured in volcanic ash, preserved for thousands of years, waiting for someone to notice, waiting for someone to remember. And it is not just Pompeii. There is Herculaneum, smaller, wealthier, similarly silenced by the same eruption. But here, the preservation is even more remarkable. The pyroclastic flows, the searing hot clouds of gas and rocks swept through the town, incinerating everything in seconds. Yet they preserved it perfectly. Wooden beams, furniture, even delicate papyrus scrolls survived, locked in the embrace of fire. Did you know that modern scientists can read the scrolls from Herculaneum with special imaging technology, uncovering words written 2,000 years ago, their voices trapped in ash, reaching out to us across millennia? It is like holding a conversation with someone long gone, yet still present, because volcanoes, in their terrifying brilliance, captured time itself. Imagine for a moment the suspense of standing in those streets at night. The ash still gray, shadows long, the wind whispers through broken windows, and you almost feel the pulse of the city as it once was. Not a ghost, but a memory preserved by fire, reminding us that life is fragile, fleeting, yet astonishingly resilient in its traces. And here is the deeper wonder. Volcanoes, while taking life in moments of terror, also give life to history. They teach us patience, observation, and reverence. They allow us to see worlds we could never otherwise know. They hold our ancestors' lives in a delicate cradle of stone and ash, whispering to us, remember, notice, learn. Now imagine this scene more gently. The sun is setting, the ash glows faintly pink. You walk slowly along a street where a merchant's stall once stood. The air smells faintly of earth and fire. The walls around you tell stories of daily life. Ordinary moments now made extraordinary because they survived disaster. You feel awe, a quiet shiver, and a deep sense of connection to those who walked here before. And perhaps the most beautiful, comforting thought is this: volcanoes, in capturing these moments, remind us that nothing truly disappears, that even in loss, something remains, something tangible, something eternal, even if fragile. The fire that destroyed also preserved. The chaos that ended life also created memory, and in that memory, humanity continues. As you breathe now, slowly and deliberately, imagine yourself not as a modern observer, but as part of the continuum, standing among those streets, feeling the ash beneath your feet, sensing the lives of people long gone. understanding, in a visceral way, the cycle of creation, destruction, and preservation. You are connected to them, to the volcano, to the mountain, and to time itself. Let us linger in this connection. Let the suspense of human vulnerability transform into quiet, knowing that life is fleeting, but memory is enduring, knowing that destruction carries its own kind of gift, that volcanoes, terrifying and magnificent, not only shape the earth, but shape our understanding, our empathy, our sense of history. And as we drift toward sleep, carry this final image with you, a street frozen in ash, yet alive in memory, a city silenced by fire, yet speaking to us across centuries, a reminder that even the most violent forces can leave traces of beauty, stories, and meaning, that life, even when interrupted, can echo through time. And in the next module, we will drift further into the long reach of volcanic memory, exploring how volcanoes continue to influence life, culture, and science, shaping not only the past, but our present and our imagination, as we move gently from history into wonder and discovery. Have you ever paused to wonder how life itself could survive on a planet that seems, from the outside, so chaotic, so violent, so unpredictable? Volcanoes erupt without warning, shaking the earth, sending clouds of ash and gases high into the sky, sometimes reshaping continents, sometimes wiping out entire species. And yet, here we are, walking, breathing, living, a testimony to the resilience of life. Picture for a moment a time long before humans, before mammals, when the earth was ruled by giants of every kind, amphibians, strange creatures that would seem alien today. The air is thick with the scent of damp forests, the hum of insects, the calls of enormous animals, echoing across valleys. And beneath this seemingly calm world, fire waits, patient and hidden deep within the crust. Now, imagine a great volcanic eruption, not just a single mountain, but a series of fissures, lava pouring for centuries, clouds of gas blotting out the sun, temperatures shifting suddenly, ecosystems forced into crisis, oceans warming, then cooling, acidity rising and falling, entire chains of life challenged. It is a scene of suspense, almost unbearable to imagine. The ordinary rhythms of life disrupted by an unstoppable force. Creatures scrambling, hiding, adapting, some thriving in the new conditions, others disappearing forever. And yet, in the chaos, nature discovers new possibilities. The survivors evolve, diversify, occupy niches left open by extinction. Did you know that some of the greatest bursts of evolution were triggered by volcanic activity? It may seem paradoxical, but destruction often creates opportunity. Species that were once marginal gain prominence. New forms emerge. New behaviors develop. Life learns resilience from fire, survival from ash. Picture a volcanic island forming in the middle of the ocean. Perhaps, like the Hawaiian chain, a fresh landmass rising from molten rock. Nothing alive yet, barren and hostile. And yet, over time, life finds a way. Seeds carried by wind, birds, and currents settle on the new soil. Tiny plants take hold. Insects arrive, followed by birds, reptiles, and mammals. Slowly, the island becomes a thriving ecosystem, born entirely from fire. The suspense here is in the patience of the process. The mountains erupt and cool. Centuries pass. Ash turns to soil. And life creeps, inch by inch, across the barren land. It is a story of persistence, of subtle power, of resilience that matches the slow pulse of the earth itself. Consider the Amazon basin, which is believed to have been influenced by volcanic activity in its distant past. Nutrients from volcanic ash enriched the soil, supporting the richest biodiversity the planet has ever seen. Rainforests that seem eternal, teeming with species. Oh, part of their abundance to fire long ago. Volcanoes, in their violence, quietly wrote the rules for life to flourish, and there is a deeper suspense. If you think about it, volcanoes are both destroyers and architects. Every eruption tests the adaptability of life. Every flow of lava resets the stage. But every recovery, every bloom that follows, carries the story of resilience, the triumph of persistence over catastrophe. Now, imagine yourself walking through a volcanic valley, not recently erupted, but shaped by fire in the distant past. The soil underfoot is rich, almost fragrant with life. Trees stretch high. Ferns curl in soft green spirals. Birds flit through branches. Insects hum gently. Streams glisten with clarity. And yet, beneath this calm, you know the memory of fire remains. The mountains nearby, sleeping or active, hold within them the memory of upheaval that shaped every leaf, every creature, every stone you see. Did you know that some volcanic lakes became cradles for unique species, found nowhere else on Earth, isolated by lava flows and geological shifts? Life adapted in astonishing ways, from tiny fish to specialized plants. Volcanic isolation has been the engine for biodiversity, the birthplace of creatures that defy imagination. And perhaps, in your own life, there is a parallel. Times when events felt catastrophic, when circumstances shifted so abruptly you had to adapt, survive, evolve, and from that challenge, something new emerged, something stronger, more resilient, capable of thriving in conditions that seemed impossible. Volcanoes, in a way, teach life this very lesson. They remind us that endings can seed beginnings, that chaos can breed creativity, that survival often depends on embracing change. Picture now a calm night on a volcanic plain, stars scattered above, the gentle glow of lava long cooled, still visible in cracks. A soft breeze carries the scent of rich soil and vegetation. Every living thing around you, plants, insects, animals, owes its presence to ancient eruptions. The cycles of fire and renewal have shaped this world, sculpting ecosystems and species with patience and power beyond human comprehension. And as you breathe slowly, imagine inhaling the legacy of these eruptions, feeling the rhythm of life that persists because volcanoes once roared, understanding that your own life, fragile yet resilient, is part of a broader story of adaptation and persistence, that every species that thrives today carries the echoes of fire, ash, and survival. Now let us soften the image further. Picture life quietly spreading across cooled lava fields, but anticipation, each sprout, each insect, each animal stepping gingerly into a world prepared by fire. And in that quiet, there is suspense and wonder. The earth is alive, patient, powerful, teaching lessons that stretch across eons. waiting for us to notice. And as your eyes grow heavy, carry this thought with you. Volcanoes are more than mountains, more than hazards or curiosities. They are agents of evolution, teachers of resilience, guardians of the delicate balance of life. In their fire and ash, life learns, adapts, and flourishes, just as you, here, in this quiet moment, are thriving, breathing, dreaming, part of this endless cycle. And in the next module, we will drift into another layer of mystery, exploring how volcanoes shaped oceans, rivers, and the movement of continents, continuing our journey from fire and life into the slow, majestic pulse of the earth itself. Have you ever wondered how the waters of our world came to be so alive, so endlessly moving, so teeming with life? Rivers carve valleys, oceans lap against shores, rainfall nourishes forests, yet beneath all this apparent calm lies a story of fire, of molten rock and ash shaping the very paths of water. Imagine standing at the edge of a volcanic island, the kind that first rose from the ocean millions of years ago, a barren land of black rock, steam rising in ghostly wisps, the air smelling faintly of sulfur. Nothing grows here yet, nothing stirs, yet all around you, the sea is restless, waves lapping against jagged edges, teeming with minerals leached from underwater eruptions. The ocean itself is part of the volcanic story, shaped by fire and heat, its chemistry altered, its currents subtly guided by the shape of new islands. Now imagine rain falling for the first time on this volcanic land, each drop bouncing off molten rock, tracing tiny channels, slowly eroding the stone, creating rivers where none existed, carrying minerals into the ocean, feeding plankton, algae, the base of life itself. Water begins to carve, to nourish, to shape, all because fire rose from the depths and met the sky. Did you know that many of the largest rivers in the world owe their existence, in part, to volcanic activity? Tectonic forces and eruptions shifted landscapes, creating mountains, valleys, and basins that guided rivers for millions of years. The Mississippi, the Amazon, the Nile, though fed by countless sources, follow paths determined by ancient upheaval. Water flowing across rocks once molten, through valleys once burned, a testament to fire's influence on liquid life. Picture yourself floating down one of these rivers in your imagination, calm now, soothed by the rhythm of the current. Yet beneath the surface, a story of immense energy and violence unfolds. The river's path is a record of eruptions, lava flows, ash deposits that hardened and redirected its course. Every bend, every rapid, a fingerprint of fire long cooled. The water is gentle, inviting, but it carries memory, it carries history. And it is not just rivers, but oceans, too. Deep underwater volcanoes, called seamounts, rise from the abyss, creating new islands, altering currents, warming waters locally, releasing minerals and gases, feeding marine life. Did you know that hydrothermal vents deep in the ocean near volcanic ridges support entire ecosystems that exist without sunlight, feeding on chemical energy instead? Life thriving purely because of fire beneath the sea. Suspenseful, isn't it? To think that even in darkness, far from sun and sky, fire gives life its foothold. Volcanoes also shape climate, subtly and dramatically when they erupt. Sulfur dioxide and ash can enter the stratosphere, blocking sunlight, cooling the planet for months or years. Conversely, carbon dioxide released can warm the Earth, creating greenhouse conditions. Volcanoes act like slow, invisible hands, turning knobs on temperature and rainfall, influencing where rivers flow, where glaciers melt, how oceans circulate, how forests grow, how life, from fish to humans, can survive, adapt, and thrive. Imagine standing on a cliff overlooking a valley. Long after an eruption, the river below glimmers, twisting like silver thread through fields of green. The mountains that guided it were built in fire. The forests it nourishes began in ash. The rain that fills it carries minerals born in molten rock. Life flows because of fire, yet it appears serene, calm, ordinary, a delicate balance of chaos and order. And here is the suspense. The wonder: water seems soft, pliant, predictable, yet its paths, its abundance, its chemistry, are determined by violence from deep within the earth. Mountains that once erupted, oceans that once boiled, rivers that once carried scalding mud, shaping life silently over millennia, their power hidden, yet present in every stream, every wave, every drop that touches your skin. Picture a volcanic lake, calm on the surface, its waters clear and reflective. Yet below, centuries ago, lava shaped its basin, minerals enriched its depth, gases trapped under sediment influence its chemistry, supporting species found nowhere else. Isolated by fire, life finds a way, adapting, thriving, creating ecosystems of exquisite delicacy, all born from the pulse of molten earth. And perhaps you notice the metaphor here, the quiet suspense in your own life. Times when circumstances seemed unyielding, impossible, yet slowly shaped the paths you would take. Challenges that altered your course, forcing growth, creating richness, guiding your inner river to new possibilities, just as fire and water work together to shape the planet. Your experiences shape the landscape of your mind and spirit. Imagine drifting gently along an ocean current near volcanic islands, the sun setting, painting the sky with soft oranges and purples. The waves move with eternal patience, carrying nutrients, fish, life across vast distances. And all of this is connected to fire beneath the surface, fire that rose from the earth's heart, transforming stone into land, shaping currents, guiding life. A hidden pulse beneath apparent calm as your breath slows. Picture the quiet rhythm of water and fire together. Rivers flowing, oceans moving, glaciers melting and forming. Rain falling softly on volcanic soil, nourishing forests, feeding life unseen yet profoundly present. Every drop of water a messenger of fire, every stream a storyteller of millennia, carrying lessons of resilience, adaptation, and persistence. And as your eyelids grow heavy, let this thought soothe you. The pulse of water, gentle and endless, is born of fire. The rivers, oceans, and rains that nurture life are inseparable from the molten heart of earth. Every living thing, every tree, every fish, every human is part of this cycle. Suspense, power, and serenity intertwined, reminding us that life's flow is both fragile and enduring. And in the next module, we will explore how volcanoes influenced human civilization in profound ways, not only shaping the land and rivers, but also inspiring agriculture, settlement, and culture. As we continue this gentle journey through fire, life, and history, have you ever wondered why humans chose to live near volcanoes? Despite their obvious danger, it seems paradoxical, doesn't it, that the very forces capable of obliterating life also attracted it. Humans were drawn to volcanic lands for centuries, across continents and cultures, finding in their soil, their rivers, their minerals, something far more valuable than the risk. Imagine, for a moment, standing on the edge of an ancient valley. Volcanic mountains rise like sentinels around you, their peaks still smoking faintly, the air tinged with sulfur. The ground beneath your feet is dark and rich, fertile in a way that no ordinary soil could ever be. You see the promise in it, though danger lingers, and slowly, humans begin to settle, planting seeds, building homes, learning the rhythms of fire. The fertility of volcanic soil is remarkable, teeming with nutrients released from cooled lava and ash. Crops grow faster, stronger, and more resilient. Ancient civilizations in Indonesia, Central America, and Italy thrived because of this. Rice paddies, maize fields, vineyards, all nourished by fire's legacy. Did you know that the slopes of Mount Vesuvius were famous even in Roman times for their wine? The grapes thrived on the minerals left behind by eruptions, giving a richness to the wine that was celebrated across the empire. Now, imagine the suspenseful tension of living in the shadow of an unpredictable giant. The mountain sleeps for decades, centuries even. Life prospers, but then, almost without warning, it awakens, ash raining down. Lava flows, threatening homes and fields. People must read the signs, feel the tremors, observe the clouds, and yet they stay. Because the rewards, the fertile land, the reliable water from mountain-fed rivers, the protection of elevated slopes are too valuable to abandon. Volcanoes also influenced human migration and culture, shaping where communities could survive, where cities could rise, and where trade routes would flow. Look at Japan, the islands formed by volcanic activity, where communities learned to live with constant threat, developing architecture, religion, and rituals to honor and appease the mountains in the Andes. Civilizations like the Incas built terraces on volcanic slopes, using the warmth of the soil, irrigation from mountain streams, and the natural protection of rugged terrain. To thrive here, humans had to adapt, to respect, to understand the pulse of fire beneath their feet. Picture yourself wandering through these terraces. The land rises in green steppes, small rivers running through each level, crops flourishing despite the occasional distant rumble, people living in harmony with both abundance and risk. It is a delicate balance, a dance with fire, and the suspense of human ingenuity is everywhere. Volcanoes provided not only soil but also stone for building, minerals for tools, hot springs for bathing, steam for cooking, even metals for early civilizations. The mountains were treasure troves, hiding resources that could sustain and empower communities. But they required courage, knowledge, and respect to harvest safely. Consider the myths that arose alongside practical knowledge. People created stories to explain eruptions, to warn, to teach, to pass down survival strategies. These myths were suspenseful narratives, carrying warnings in metaphor, gods and monsters in place of molten lava, rituals instead of evacuation plans, And yet, embedded in every story was survival knowledge, a way to thrive in the shadow of fire. Let us imagine, for a moment, a night in an ancient volcanic settlement. Families gathered around small fires, children listening to elders, the mountain looming silently beyond, a faint glow on the horizon hinting at activity miles away. The stories carry suspense, excitement, and reverence. They teach caution, resilience, respect, and hope. And as the people sleep, the mountain sleeps too, its pulse invisible but felt, guiding the lives of those below. And perhaps the most fascinating part is how volcanoes influenced trade and economy. Minerals from eruptions, obsidian for cutting tools, pumice for construction, sulfur for medicine, became highly sought commodities. Entire trade networks developed around volcanic resources, connecting communities separated by mountains and seas. Fire became a driver not only of destruction, but also of connection, of civilization, of culture. Imagine walking along an ancient trade route, carrying stones shaped by fire, the air tense with the knowledge that the mountains above could awaken at any moment. The journey perilous, yet full of promise. Every stone, every grain of fertile soil, every mineral carries a story of fire, and every settlement along the way owes its existence to the delicate gift of volcanoes, balancing destruction with nourishment, danger with opportunity. And there is a quiet lesson here, one that resonates with your own life, perhaps, as we listen tonight. You notice how risk and reward often walk together, how challenge and growth are inseparable, how danger, when approached with knowledge, respect, and patience, can yield richness beyond imagination. Just as humans learned to live with volcanoes, you too can navigate your own uncertainties, finding strength and nourishment in the very forces that challenge you. Picture, finally, the gentle rhythm of life in a volcanic valley. Crops swaying in the wind, streams murmuring down cooled lava slopes, smoke rising faintly from distant fumaroles, the mountain imposing yet majestic, humans tending gardens, trading, creating, living in fragile harmony with fire. The suspense of potential eruptions softened by centuries of observation, understanding, and adaptation. A delicate balance maintained, beauty emerging from tension. And as your body softens, your mind drifts, let this thought linger. Volcanoes are both risk and gift, teachers and destroyers. They shaped human civilization in ways subtle and profound, feeding us, sheltering us, inspiring myths and culture, urging us to adapt and thrive. And just as humans learned to live in harmony with them, we too can learn to live with challenges in our lives, finding growth, richness, and balance. And in the next module, we will drift from human civilization into the mysteries of volcanic landscapes and their influence on art, culture, and imagination, exploring how fire and stone inspired stories, paintings, and music, deepening the connection between the earth and the human spirit. Have you ever wondered how a mountain that belches fire and ash could also inspire beauty, music, and poetry? It seems almost impossible, doesn't it, that something so terrifying, so violent, could also stir the deepest creativity in the human mind. Yet, throughout history, volcanoes have been muses, shaping the way humans perceive the world. Imagine the impossible and express emotion. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a volcanic crater, the ground beneath you warm, a faint tremor pulsing through the earth, the sun setting, casting fiery orange and crimson across clouds tinged with ash. The air smells of earth and smoke, your breath slow and quiet, and as you watch, you notice how the play of light, shadow, and smoke seems to tell a story, even without words. Artists, poets, and musicians have long been captivated by this spectacle, seeking to capture its awe, its terror, its beauty. In the 18th century, European painters traveled to Italy to witness Mount Vesuvius erupt, sketching, painting, and capturing the molten glow in oils and watercolors. The eruption itself became a symbol of sublime power, danger, and beauty entwined. Suspense encoded in every brushstroke, the fiery mountains inspired a sense of wonder and humility, reminding humans of the raw energy beneath their feet. In literature, volcanoes became metaphors for passion, destruction, and renewal, from the works of Virgil and Ovid in ancient Rome, describing the lands near Vesuvius, two 19th-century poets who wrote about Etna and Stromboli. Fire was always a character, alive and unpredictable, its rumble a heartbeat of the earth, its lava a river of fate. The suspense was ever present, for the mountain could erupt at any moment. Yet humans dared to witness it, to write about it, to imagine it. Imagine yourself listening to a story told by candlelight in a small village in Sicily centuries ago. The narrator describes lava cascading down slopes, consuming olive groves and homes. Yet the story does not end in despair. It speaks also of new land formed, soil enriched, life renewed. The villagers sit in silence, both awed and anxious, hanging on each word. The suspense is palpable, yet comforting, because it carries knowledge, memory, and imagination intertwined. Music has felt the pulse of volcanoes, composers mimicking eruptions with crescendos and sudden silence, violins and timpani echoing lava flows, drum beats mimicking tremors, notes rising and falling like smoke in the sky. The fire and tension of the mountains translated into rhythm and melody, communicating danger, awe, and beauty all at once. And as you listen, you can almost feel the rumble beneath your feet, the heat on your skin, the suspense in your chest. Consider the myths that shaped visual art, from Japanese woodblock prints depicting Mount Fuji to Polynesian carvings honoring Pele, the goddess of fire. Volcanoes became symbols of divine power, life, death, and creation. Their forms and eruptions captured in detail, abstracted into meaning, reimagined for generations. Artists and storytellers found ways to translate destruction into inspiration, chaos into composition, fear into expression. Picture yourself wandering through a gallery of volcanic art, the walls alive with molten reds, oranges, and blacks. Landscapes frozen in moments of eruption, figures of gods, humans, and creatures entwined with lava flows. The air seems to vibrate with energy. You feel the suspense of each painting, the story of creation and destruction. Yet your body softens, absorbing the awe without alarm, letting wonder seep in gently. And perhaps the most enchanting part is how volcanoes continue to inspire imagination today. In films, video games, and novels, they are symbols of suspense and transformation, their unpredictable power lending tension and drama. Yet they also symbolize growth, rebirth, and the interconnectedness of life. Science fiction often imagines volcanic worlds as alien landscapes, challenging heroes and revealing the fragility and resilience of life, blurring the line between reality and imagination, just as we feel in our dreams. Imagine yourself lying back, eyes heavy, hearing the distant rumble of a mountain in the distance, not real, yet vividly imagined, your mind painting lava flows, ash clouds, forests burned and reborn, cities swallowed and recreated, rivers flowing across cooled rock, stories rising from the molten earth. Your breath slows, your body softens, and yet your imagination is alive, dancing with suspense and beauty. There is a quiet lesson here. For both art and life, the forces that seem most dangerous often inspire the deepest creativity. The mountains that terrify us also teach us awe, patience, resilience, and the art of observation. Volcanoes remind us that beauty can emerge from chaos, and that our stories, songs, and paintings are ways to make sense of the forces that shape us. Picture the world as a canvas painted in layers of ash and lava, life itself etched upon it, humans adding color, words, melody, and meaning. We walk, observe, create, translate danger into understanding, suspense and beauty entwined, as if the earth itself is a collaborator in our imagination, guiding, teaching, inspiring. And as your eyelids grow heavier, carry this thought gently. The rumble of volcanoes is not only a warning, not only a threat, but a muse. They remind us that life is dramatic and fleeting, yet endlessly rich, that suspense and beauty coexist, that even in the shadow of destruction, creativity blooms, and that, in your own mind, in your own dreams, you can witness, imagine, and find awe in forces much greater than yourself. And in the next module, we will drift into the hidden sounds of volcanoes, exploring how they communicate through subtle vibrations, low-frequency hums, and rumbling pulses, revealing the Earth's secret heartbeat in a way both suspenseful and calming, perfect for the sleep journey we continue tonight. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to hear a mountain breathe? Not the rustle of trees, not the rush of wind, but the deep, slow, powerful pulse of the earth itself. Volcanoes speak in sounds that are subtle, almost imperceptible, yet full of meaning. A language older than humans, older than cities, a rhythm of fire and rock, waiting for those who are patient enough to listen. Picture yourself standing near the base of a volcano in the quiet of night, the stars scattered across a dark sky, a faint glow hinting at molten rock beneath the air still, the ground solid yet alive with vibrations. At first, there is only silence, but if you listen closely, there is a hum, a low-frequency vibration beneath your feet. The mountain is breathing, stretching, shifting, imperceptibly, communicating its slow, immense energy in whispers and rumblings. Volcanoes produce sounds in ways that are both terrifying and mesmerizing, from deep, resonant rumbles that can travel hundreds of miles, to subtle micro-vibrations, too low for human ears. Yet seismologists, equipped with sensitive instruments, can hear them, decode them, translating the language of stone, fire, and gas into signals, signs of life beneath the crust. These sounds are suspenseful, a reminder that the earth is never still, even when all seems calm. Imagine the suspense of standing nearby during a volcanic tremor. Not an eruption yet, but a warning. The earth hums and vibrates, rocks shifting imperceptibly, gas moving through hidden tunnels, water in underground lakes sloshing gently in resonance. You can feel it through your feet. A faint vibration in your chest. The mountain is alive. Its voice subtle but persistent, speaking in a language you can almost understand if you only stop and listen. Did you know that some eruptions are preceded by harmonic tremors, continuous vibrations that warn of molten rock moving underground, sometimes days, weeks, or even months before the surface changes? Scientists can hear the heartbeat of a volcano long before it becomes visible. The suspense of waiting, interpreting, anticipating is mirrored in the stories of humans living nearby for millennia, who learned to sense the Earth's shifts intuitively, listening for danger, survival, depending on subtle signs. Now picture a volcanic lake, perfectly still on the surface, reflecting the stars, yet beneath, magma moves. Gases bubble and hiss. The water carries the vibrations upward, producing sounds that echo across valleys. Sometimes a gentle hum, like a lullaby from the mountain itself. Sometimes a low, threatening rumble. Suspense building in every pulse, a secret song of fire and stone, audible only to those attuned to its rhythm. There is beauty in this, isn't there? The same force that can destroy also whispers secrets, sharing knowledge, patterns, and rhythm with those patient enough to listen. Volcanoes communicate in ways subtle and slow, teaching us that not all power shouts, that some of the most profound signals are quiet, almost imperceptible, and yet entirely present. Imagine standing in a forest on the slope of a volcano. The wind rustles softly through the trees, but beneath your feet a vibration pulses gently, almost like the mountain is keeping time, its rhythm synchronized with your breathing, your heartbeat, your thoughts slowing in response. You are attuned, suspended between fear and awe. Suspense softens into calm as you feel part of the living earth. And the suspense is subtle, hypnotic. The earth's hidden voice encourages patience, deep observation, and connection. You can sense the lava moving far below, though you cannot see it. Feel the gases gathering in caverns, the rocks slowly shifting. You are listening to a language of creation and destruction, spoken in the gentle hums, cracks, and groans of stone. A symphony spanning centuries. Did you know that some scientists now use infrasonic microphones to capture these vibrations? Translated into audible sound, they can resemble low, eerie melodies, whispering secrets of the molten world. Many describe listening as meditative, hypnotic, like being in the presence of an ancient consciousness. Suspense and calm intertwine, fear softened by wonder. Picture the mountain as a storyteller, speaking in low tones, its tale spanning millennia, of eruptions past, rivers redirected, species created or lost, cities swallowed and preserved, forests burned and reborn. And as you lie in bed tonight, your mind open to imagination, you can hear it too, soft and steady, guiding you into reflection and gentle sleep. Suspense dissolving into awe, awe into calm, calm into rest. And there is a lesson here for life, for sleep, for thought. The most powerful messages are not always loud. Sometimes they are whispers beneath your feet, vibrations in your chest, soft signals in the world around you. Just as volcanoes speak in hidden tones, our inner life communicates subtly through breath, heartbeat, and reflection. You can learn to listen, to anticipate, to relax, to trust the rhythms beneath apparent stillness. Imagine drifting now in imagination across a volcanic valley at night. The stars mirrored in still lakes, the hum of the mountain pulsing softly beneath the surface, trees swaying gently, rivers murmuring quietly, lava long cooled, giving off faint warmth. Every sound, vibration, and tremor a lullaby, a secret melody of the earth itself, suspense transformed into serenity, anticipation into gentle trust. And as your eyelids grow heavy, remember this: the mountain's voice is patient, timeless, enduring. It speaks not with urgency, but with constancy, guiding life above and below, teaching awe, humility, and attention, reminding us that even forces beyond comprehension communicate if we pause, listen, and breathe. That life-like sound flows in hidden patterns, waiting for our awareness, and that the pulse of fire beneath the earth is a lullaby of creation and connection. And in the next module, we will drift into the psychology of volcanic landscapes, exploring why humans are simultaneously terrified and drawn to them, why suspense, danger, and beauty coexist in ways that calm and captivate the mind, perfect for the gentle journey toward sleep. Have you ever wondered why, even knowing the danger, humans are irresistibly drawn to volcanoes? There is something magnetic about them, a pull that transcends logic, a fascination that mixes fear, awe, and curiosity. Perhaps it is the thrill of suspense, the recognition of raw power, the reminder of forces beyond our control. Yet there is also comfort in observing them safely, watching destruction and creation unfold from a distance. Picture yourself standing on a gentle slope, far enough from the molten heart of a volcano to be safe, yet close enough to feel its presence. The mountain rises before you, jagged and silent, but you sense the energy within. The air is thick with minerals, the soil warm, your heart quickened slightly by awareness. There is suspense here, yes, the subtle thrill of potential danger, but it is tempered by your position, by your observation, by your understanding. Psychologists have studied this fascination for centuries, calling it the allure of the sublime, the mixture of awe and terror that inspires humans to pay attention, to reflect, to imagine. Suspense triggers curiosity, and curiosity fosters learning, creativity, and emotional resonance. Volcanoes are perfect teachers of the sublime, their unpredictability and scale inspiring reverence, humility, and contemplation. Imagine watching smoke rise in delicate swirls from a crater, the sun low in the sky, casting shadows across cooled lava. Each puff of vapor a reminder of hidden processes, unseen forces, energy concentrated and contained. The suspense is quiet but potent. You are drawn into observing, noting, imagining, understanding, yet also surrendered to the calm that distance and safety afford. There is also an evolutionary explanation for this fascination. Our ancestors needed to recognize danger, to respond quickly to unpredictable threats. Those who were attuned to mountains, rivers, storms, and fire survived, passing on genes that valued observation, caution, and respect for natural forces. Today, even as we live in cities far removed from active volcanoes, this instinct persists. We are naturally curious about danger, and suspense triggers attention, learning, and awe. Picture now an eruption from a safe distance. The glow of lava illuminating night clouds, a faint rumble beneath your feet. The thrill of suspense mixed with calm observation. Your mind alert yet relaxed. Your senses engaged yet not overwhelmed. Humans have always sought this delicate balance, standing on the edge of fire to witness both risk and reward, danger and beauty intertwined. And there is a deeper psychological lesson here. For volcanoes mirror life itself, unpredictable, powerful, and awe-inspiring. Their presence evokes both fear and fascination, suspense and serenity, threat and comfort. Observing them safely teaches patience, reflection, and appreciation for both power and fragility. We learn to tolerate uncertainty, to find calm in chaos, to observe beauty in forces beyond our control. Imagine walking along a cooled lava field. The rough rock underfoot, a tactile reminder of the mountain's past violence. The wind whispers across cracks, carrying hints of sulfur and ash. Shadows lengthen, shapes of distant peaks shifting in the fading light. You feel the suspense of potential change. Yet your breathing slows, your awareness softens. You are present, connected, alive to the mountain's rhythm, but also part of a world safe and enduring. Artists, writers, and philosophers have long recognized this, recording the thrill, the tension, and the calm, using volcanoes as symbols of human emotion, of courage, of transformation. In literature, eruptions become metaphors for hidden passion or rage, for life-altering change, for the sudden and the inevitable. Yet witnessing them safely transforms terror into awe, anxiety into reflection, suspense into meditation. And perhaps the most comforting insight is this: our fascination with volcanoes mirrors our own inner life. Times when emotions surge unpredictably, when circumstances shift suddenly, when challenges appear intense, overwhelming, and yet carry potential for growth, when suspense and risk meet beauty and resilience. We are learning to navigate these forces safely, observing, reflecting, growing, just as we watch the mountain from afar. Picture a night on a volcanic plain, stars mirrored in still lava tubes, a faint glow from distant vents illuminating the horizon, the air crisp, the vibrations subtle beneath your feet, your heart and mind synchronized to the mountain's pulse. Suspense transformed into a gentle curiosity, anxiety softened into awe, fear softened into reflection. You are awake, aware, yet drifting toward top home, toward understanding, toward sleep. And there is a gentle paradox in this relationship. Volcanoes terrify, yet they inspire. They destroy, yet they preserve. They challenge, yet they teach. Observing them nurtures patience, resilience, and awareness, quieting the mind while stirring imagination, transforming suspense into meditation, danger into wonder, and awe into rest. Imagine now lying back, your body heavy, your thoughts slowing, as you picture rivers of lava cooled into gentle ridges, ash settled into valleys, forests regrown, wildlife adapting. people watching from safe distances, recording, reflecting, learning, creating. The suspense is still present, but muted, filtered through time, experience, and imagination. You are part of this cycle, feeling, observing, and understanding. And as your breath slows, your mind drifts. Remember this: humans are drawn to volcanoes because they reflect life's duality: suspense and serenity, danger and beauty, chaos and creation. Watching them safely teaches balance, awareness, and wonder. Your fascination with danger, curiosity, and awe is not only natural but profoundly human, a lullaby of learning, reflection, and connection, guiding you gently toward rest. And in the next module, we will drift even deeper into the long-term mysteries of volcanic cycles, exploring how mountains sleep, awaken, and shape the earth over millennia, blending suspense, science, and soothing reflection for a deeper journey into sleep.